Do you remember me and how it used to be? Do you remember me as I remember you? Carol King and Tony Stern. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, I'm working on a piece that is metaphorical in nature, and I'll be doing a vase, and then the drippings will create another uh, artwork on this 12-inch wood or birch wood canvas. I've leveled off my vase, trying to get it exactly balanced, and I'm using a white, soft white mixed with water. My color palette includes a Gen Crafts acrylic, which is a green pearl. I'll be using a purple pearl metallic by Deco Art, Abier white pearl, and these have all been mixed with water in equal amounts, 1-to-1 ratio, and you can adjust it if you need to. The metallics tend to need less water than the other acrylics. I'll be using a Pouring Masters, which is a chocolate chip brown. I actually mixed that with this bronze color that is a metallic, a bluish purple by Abier, and another white pearl that I combined with the Abier, and this just kicks it up because Deco Art's metallics are real vibrant, so I'm hoping to bring that in. The first thing I want to do is cover my vase with a white that is the soft white mixed with just water to get it to that consistency. I thought about this after I had read it a while ago, but it just, I was watching something last night, and it touched me, and I thought back to the book Unclaimed Baggage by Marcy Corn, and a real powerful read, and it touches upon dementia, Alzheimer's, and how it affects a daughter as she watches her mother go through this, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. And I thought, you know what, I want to use the vase because metaphorically, I look at it as a blank canvas. This is where we start, our beginning. And so our life experiences, whether they be joyous or not so much, but all of those things that we go through in life just add to our own depth, our own personalities, who we become, who we are. And of course, there are things that we cannot control. I read that in 2024, I believe the Alzheimer's Association reached out to over 10 million who have been affected, dementia, Alzheimer's, and it's just overwhelming, and those numbers are rising. And I myself have been touched watching my mother-in-law and my mother go through this very debilitating disease. And so in Unclaimed Baggage by Marcy Corn, she talks about this and how, you know, it changed the story, it changed her story, it changed her mom's story. But it's also an uplifting story as well. So let me get started because this is rather a lengthy process. So I hope you bear with me, and I hope you do subscribe and hit that button. Please do comment. Comments are always welcome, and you cannot comment unless you have subscribed to my channel. So I want to just go in and cover the vase. The trick here is in moving it, just like in real life, you know, balancing things out or trying to, as they relate to caregivers, family members, and friends of those who have watched dementia, Alzheimer's take over not only their loved one's life, but theirs as well. And I think about a couple of friends whose parents had gone through this. I think of Julia Krobozinski, who was a colleague when I was teaching at PS 27 in Jersey City, and those effects that had on her life. And her mom was a gem. She would take care of Julia and her husband's twins, Jake and Natalie, while Julia was at work. And Julia checked in with her every day and would get a blow-by-blow account of what the twins were doing. But as her mom aged and the ravages of Alzheimer's took over, you can well imagine what that must have been like for her. It's very heartbreaking. And I think about a childhood friend of mine whose mother also was ravaged by this disease. And a shout out, my thoughts to Maria Scarpa Grampone as I create this homage in honor and remembrance and thought for all those who have lost someone to that disease and those who are struggling watching their loved ones be ravaged by it. All right, let me just make sure that I've covered most of this. So we have our first layer of life experiences here. Let me just double check here, make sure. I'm trying to balance it, just like we try to balance our lives sometimes when we are taking care of those who cannot or can no longer take care of themselves. I do want to take my gloves off. Time for a change. Some changes are good and some are not. In Unclaimed Baggage, there's a resiliency to that story that Marcy Korn highlights and talks about. It's a very powerful read. And you do get a glimpse, as it were, into God's world and how his spirit filled this daughter and brought love. All right, what I want to do now is go in. Let me just double check. I know that there are some areas that may not have covered. Pardon my head. But I just want to make sure it's all covered. And I'm not torching this. I don't really need to. The drips will just continue coming down. All right, so I actually put all of the paints that I mentioned earlier. This is a 5-split silicone cup. And I'll also be using a 2-split. So here I've included the metallic purple, the pearl white, the green blue color, the rich chocolate chip brown, that blue once again, the richer blue or bluish purple as it were. I've added the bluish purple here again, repeating it, and then I added the metallic silver. I don't know if I had mentioned that, but I did add silver here as well. All right, so I'm going to go in and do it simultaneously. I'm actually going to have them flow into each other. It's coming down in a beautiful feathery effect. I did have some of those paints a bit on the thicker side, and I'm hoping it works out on the canvas as well. So we're just going to wait for this to continue dripping down and doing its magic. Again, unclaimed baggage, real life from the daughter's perspective, and it's a narrative that weaves a heartfelt tapestry of compassion, inspiration, and redemption. Unclaimed Baggage by Marcy Korn. And it's not just, that was an extraordinarily powerful read. I'm just going to continue watching this, trying to get as many drips off of that vase as I can before we move on to the next step. And hopefully I'll be successful in transferring this onto the waiting board here. I use the a cookie cooler sheet, I don't know what they call this, a rack, excuse me, to create yet another layer to the dimension so that it breaks up the paint as it falls down. And metaphorically speaking, the idea of breaking down, as sadly the brain does and resembles, so they say, through x-rays, MRIs, CAT scan and such of someone who is suffering Alzheimer's, the brain literally gets destroyed, eaten away, almost like a cotton, Swiss cheese, where it develops these holes. And eventually we know Alzheimer's patients, which is just heartbreaking to watch, but Alzheimer's patients, dementia patients, go through this horrific transformation that eventually their system slowly starts to shut down, and eventually that brain, because it has been so destroyed, just doesn't send those signals out, where they're not even able to breathe, and eventually they succumb to that, and sadly and tragically death ensues. But in Unclaimed Baggage, as I said, there's a beauty to it as well, and it's inspiring and uplifting as we watch and read about this very courageous, or the very courageous women there. And highly recommend that you pick this up. I'm sure, and again, sadly, there are many, many who have been affected by this and continue, as the Alzheimer's Association predicts that those numbers will be even more staggering if we don't intervene and try to resolve it, or at least find something that drastically reduces that disease and its effects. Marcy Cohn has also penned two extraordinary psychological thrillers. The first, and you do not need to buy one over the other, or read one over the other, but I strongly urge that you begin with the first, which was Always Thaddeus. It's just, that's where you get introduced to the characters, and there were quite a few. To be honest, and I think I wrote it in my review, the antagonist in that, my heart kind of went out to her because she has such a tragic beginning in life. But as the story continues, there are so many twists and turns, and the aberration of her psyche it just takes your breath away on how Marcy Cohn writes her, but also the interwoven relationships that they have, the development, and then also in Amadeus, Always Thaddeus, the Resurrection, Part 2, it further continues the story. But again, you can just pick it up and it will read on its own, and psychologically twisted and beautifully, just wonderfully written. And it's, in my mind, where truth and death and revenge kind of commingle and meet and collide. And here we have our protagonist, who is imprisoned because they believe he had murdered his wife. And as he is released from prison, you realize it's only just begun for this hero protagonist, as it were. Strongly urge you to pick those up. You're going to thank me for these two by Marcy Korn, so do pick those up. But Unclaimed Baggage, and we have here, we started off with our vase, that clean slate, our beginning, and we slowly covered it with white as we added to, metaphorically or comparatively speaking, the experiences, the joy, and some of the heartaches or unforeseen circumstances that happen in life. And there's always beauty to be found. And so when I think of the song, do you remember me? I remember you. We're still waiting for a few more of the drips to come before I try to move this. I'm reminded of a children's book, and sadly, I probably should have looked it up just to bring it to you, but it's about a little boy whose grandpa is slowly succumbing to that disease. And in that story, the grandpa starts giving his little grandson little trinkets and little memories and whatnot. And I believe in the story, the grandson asked, well, why is grandpa doing this? Or why are you doing this, grandpa? And the grandpa says, because when I can't remember, I want you to. And something along that. And it's a beautiful story. And I'm sorry, I apologize, I was not able to or didn't research to see what the title of that book was. It's a beautiful read for those caregivers, families, and friends who, whose loved ones have been afflicted by Alzheimer's, dementia, and have children and find it difficult to explain to them what is going on. This book might be a springboard for that. There are many books out there that address this as well, so I highly recommend that you seek those out. All right, I just want to touch this up just a little bit and have the paint flow. You continue with the dripping process, and I will try to take you in for a close-up because, and this is wonderful, like life and thinking about those people who we love who are suffering or had suffered, and we watch the debilitating nature of the disease, where what we see here may not be what we see on the other side. So there's a dichotomous, juxtaposed view of their lives and our own as well. I want to just run my fingers around the bottom just to get some extra drippings off. As it dries, some of the drips will continue to form. Sometimes I will go in and just remove them to get a cleaner effect to the vase, but sometimes I actually like those drips that kind of pop up off of the vase. All right, I am going to try to move this, and hopefully it will stay as I slowly move it. Try not to disturb it too much. I did want to turn it a little bit so when we go in for our close-up, you can see what happened on the other side of this. So let me just lift it and turn it. Try not to disturb it too much. And I want to go in and work with the drippings from that vase. And many of the colors have commingled, but there's a beautiful scalloping that's going on here. And there's some beautiful patterns in here. There's a wave and a movement, movement in terms of life and change. And so I want to tilt it. Actually, you know what? I think I need to torch it first. Quite a few bubbles here. There are some cells that are popping as I'm torching. And let me continue with the stretching. And again, my paint here is a little on the thicker side because I did the vase. I did want to make sure that the paints adhere to the vase. I have done vases where they're structured or excuse me, they have the cell structures in them, and so it a peekaboo sort of into the natural state of the vase, or that crystal clear vase effect. All right, I want to just go in and just touch a little bit on the sides as the paint continues to drip down. Bring it toward you so you can see what's happening here. The sides are actually pretty. I want to bring down some of that purple with the bluish purple, the lavender. Bring it down just a little bit. The chocolate chip is really peeking through beautifully here. And I do want to torch it once again. And again, I'm using all metallics on this one. And there's a richness to it, just like those people, our family members, our friends who have been ravaged by the disease, have that beauty and that depth that perhaps we don't see it as we had. Someone once said, well, they don't really know, excuse me, that you're there or that you're visiting them. They don't recognize you. Why do you still visit? I said, well, they may not remember, just like in that Carole King song, Do You Remember Me? They might not remember me this day or one day from the other, but I remember them. And so I continue on, just as I did with my mother-in-law, and my husband did, obviously, when she was in hospice, and then with my mom, it was the same. All right, what I want to do, and as sad as this may be, it is the reality of the disease. Again, impacted, inspired for this piece by Marcy Korn, Unclaimed Baggage. And the sad reality is that the brain of the Alzheimer's victim begins to resemble Swiss cheese. And as sad as that is, I want to try to capture the beauty that lies just beneath. And I want to do that by swiping through. And here I'm using a satin enamel, and to it I added the GAC 800, some Awatrol, which is a pouring medium, and it does generate additional cells, as well as about 4 drops of coconut oil. So I just placed it on my palette knife, and I think I want to start here. I'm going to place my palette down gently, angle it, and just slowly touch the canvas. I think I want to bring it this way. Just have it veer off. I think I want a smaller one right here, so I'm going to go in with a plastic palette knife, thinner, and just, yes, create that breakthrough effect of cells, metaphorically for the Alzheimer's patient's brain, but also to uncover the beauty just beneath that's always there. Slowly. How's everyone doing this weekend? Hopefully the weather is beautiful where you are and you're enjoying it, enjoying your weekend. I want to torch it to see if there are more cells before we move to the next step that I wanted to do with this piece. Additional cells are popping as I'm torching. Get rid of some more air bubbles while I'm here. One of my mom's favorite colors was pink, purple, all in that family. And my mother-in-law loved the blues, the blue colors, the greens, earthy colors. And so this has that. So I think about their life and their journey. And while they could not always remember me, I remembered them. One of the effects, and I know quite a few who have experienced watching the disease take over, is this anger, these outbursts. You know, and I know you see them on the commercials and all these different medicines that they have out there. And that was so unlike in the nature of my mom and my mother-in-law. So that was difficult to watch, just as much as knowing that they didn't always recognize me. All right, I want to go in with my marble, the world, their world represented here. And I want to just continue on bringing out some additional beauty to this. I'm going to tilt it. Just to see where it may go. I want to bring some more of that purple down. And go this way. I'm going to bring that paint back just a little bit. And down. Sometimes, well, most times, the artwork will represent or will be or coupled with the vase. This is, and yet it isn't. And I'm okay with that, actually. I just want to step back for a moment. What's real pretty is right here, there is I want to say a dove-like creation, and I'm really liking that, the idea of peace. I don't want to lose it. And I want to add, just let me step back for a minute. I think I want to introduce some of that purple. It's not a swipe, so we'll see if it works out. And then tilt it once again. I think I'm going to go here, not to disrupt our dove. I'm going to go slowly. Just to add additional detail to that. Go in and just bring it through. I think we're going to just add some more of that pearl. Put it on my palette knife, if you can see this. Just to add another layer, another dimension. Trying to pick up some of the colors that are in our vase, because I fear that as I tilted it, some of the colors became muddied, and One may say, well, if you're doing a tribute and honor and remembrance for those who have succumbed to that disease or struggling with disease, then sadly, like their thoughts eventually, and I know it was like that for my mom and mother-in-law, their thoughts are not their own. So in a way, this piece is sort of a reminder of that. So if I entitled it Alzheimer's, then it certainly would make sense. All right, I want to leave the dove that's there, but I think I want to go here. Just adding another layer. And again, I'm just adding more paint to my palette knife, trying to create a floral effect as well. So it's the idea of life, bringing life to my canvas. Memories. I want to thank Marcy Korn, the author of Unclaimed Baggage, for today's inspiration. And hopefully you pick it up and it gives you some comfort, some hope where it appears to be hopeless, uplifting, many layers to that story. Again, I'm just adding dabs of color to my palette knife, and I'm going to go in here and down, bring it down, and through. I want to do that one more time. I don't want to disturb the dove in that corner, so let's see if we can bring it together. I think I'm going to go in with some of my pearl or my silver here. Our golden years, I think of when I think of silver. And I didn't want too much for this. And I think I actually am going to bring it here and through. And one more. Beautiful thing to watch a work in progress. And sometimes it works out well, and sometimes it doesn't. And so when we think of our loved ones, those who are suffering, those who have been afflicted by Alzheimer's, we think about a beauty that goes beyond what we see. Things change. They redefine themselves. And there's a beauty in that as well. I'm going to go in this way and bring it down. Just wisps. And I think I want to break up that purple just a little bit. Again, trying to pick up the unmuddied effect, as you see on the vase that I created. I don't want to put too much purple, just dabs, because there is so much there. Do you want to add some blue?
fear I've run out of blue. Okay, it's okay. There we go. And I think I want to just bring it in here. Just down and break it through. And I want to just step back and break up that purple a little bit with just white. And I'm going to hit it with a little bit of green for a little uniformity. There is more purple as the paint comes off the vase, and it's actually good. Looks good. All right, I think I want to stop here and torch it and see what else we can discover. I do need to just go in with a little bit more white because there's a lot more purple in that one area than I really want. It's always good to step back in any situation and think, what can I do now? What should I do now? And I know at times when we watch our loved ones slowly drift off, we think, I don't know what else to do next. What now? Grab Unclaimed Baggage by Marcy Korn and do. Find peace. All right. And then be inspired by her work. All right. I want to just tilt it a little bit. I don't want to lose that beautiful little dove-like creation on the side, but I do want to stretch it just a little bit, have those flowers expand. I think if I used a thinner white at the bottom, it might have worked out a little bit better. The colors are real muddied here, so I'm trying to very slowly just have them drift off. Or run off and expand some of that bluish purple and that pearl white. And I think we're going to stop there. I want to take you in for a close-up. I like that corner is picking up the vibrancy of what's going on in here, and our dove is here in that one corner. I think as it will dry, it continues to dry, additional cells will be peeking through. Metaphorically speaking, I think it works. Let me take you in for a close-up. There is a song, Cody Johnson, and part of, or the chorus of that, if you're going to love somebody, hold them as long and as strong and as close as you can till you can't. close-up of the drippings. As I'm looking at it, I may need to revisit it, but for now, I want you to see the vase. I'm sorry, I don't want to move it. Just so you get an aerial view of what's going on. And close up. And back. And the two pieces together. Be good to one another and yourself. Thank you.